ahead and go over that now. Um, Now, currently by default, all Windows is set to F9. Your application Windows is set to F10, and your desktop is to F11. Now, something I need to point out here is that you must hold the FN control key down first, because they have, on most keyboards, they have two functions. For example, F10 and F11, if I just hit it without the FN, you're going to get your volume controls. Okay, so if you hold the FN down and you hold F9, there you go. There's your expose view. Okay, then we'll go ahead and press that again and we come back. If you go to F10, that go ahead and brings up the window front and center that you're currently working on, which is, in this case, System Preferences. And you can always identify that by knowing that that's what's up in your menu bar. And we'll go ahead and get back out of that. And then F11, and again, you have to hold the FN key down first. F11, that clears your desktop. So those are some keyboard shortcuts as well that you can use. And then over here, this is your mouse adjustments. And if you have a multiple buttoned mouse, like in my case I have a scroll wheel and I have a few additional buttons on my mouse, you can set these buttons here, and you can use the mouse button 3, which in my case would be the center wheel, and if you activated that and you click down, that takes you to expose. I just use the center wheel of my mouse, push that down, and you can customize those buttons here. Again, rather than setting up mouse buttons when you grab your mouse and you accidentally hit the button, it takes you into expose, and it's a little inconvenient. So just use some caution when you do this. And then the final thing here is your dashboard, your widgets, and again that would be FN and 12, and that brings your dashboard widgets up as well. Then you also have a mouse button you can customize for that also. And then if you ever have any questions regarding any of these things, there's a really nice help menu right here, and that Apple provides, and that pretty much walks you through everything we just discussed. It's just a little bit brief, and they don't actually show you like we're showing you here. And when I was preparing for this screen tutorial, I really didn't find too many good screen tutorials that covered expose and spaces. So why don't we go ahead and reduce all these back down again, and we'll go back to expose and spaces, excuse me, and we're going to talk about spaces. Okay, I went ahead and populated a few applications in here. Since you got the idea of how to set that up, I didn't want to bore you with populating the different applications. Although one thing I did want to mention to you, when you're adding and subtracting items that are pre-selected, and you don't necessarily need to pre-select your applications within spaces, which I'll show you here in a moment. But I did want to point out that when you click the add, these are currently applications that are open. If you go to other, that brings up your applications folder, and you can select from any one of these applications. And here's hyperspaces, for example, which we really need to go over that because it makes it just so much easier. So that's how you get to your additional applications. And if, for example, you wanted to say remove the Finder, you highlight the Finder and you click minus, and the Finder is now gone. So we're going to go ahead and add Finder back. So again, it remembers the last one you eliminated, and there it is. So we'll go ahead and put Finder back, and again it defaulted to space 2, which is exactly where we want that. So Why don't we go ahead? Well, let's briefly talk about this. And to activate spaces on a keyboard shortcut, it's currently set to F8. Well, F8 also has another function. I believe it pauses and plays your media. So if you're using QuickTime Player, that's also a key that does that. F5 and F6 are two good keys because they don't have anything and you don't have to use FN. So we're going to go ahead and change this and assign it to F5. And now if I press the F5, it activates spaces and I did not have to press my FN key. To switch spaces, you simply use the arrow keys or the number keys. And again, you can change this. By default, you're clicking on your arrow keys and your number keys and the control key. Okay, so let's go ahead and press F5. Okay, which activates spaces, and then you press the control and you can see where we're highlighting, and I'm using my cursor, my little arrows, to go between the spaces, and then you're good to go. Um, so that's one way of navigating, or you can simply use, we'll go ahead and press F5 again, and you can just go with the mouse and open that up. So, and you can access your spaces from your menu bar. You have space 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and populate some of these spaces. So let's go ahead and open up a Safari window, and you notice the spaces changed. So we'll go ahead and open up a couple of Safari windows. And we'll open a Finder window, and we'll open Calendar and Address Book. And now you notice the way Calendar and Address Book came up together because they're both assigned to space 1. And you can also see here that that is space 1. Let's go ahead and open iTunes. Let's open up iPhoto and System Preferences and the text editor. Okay, and there's all your different spaces there. So when you click here, click 1, that takes you to space 1. That would where we had put our address book or in our iCal and our mail. You go to space 2, and there you have your text editor and you have your Finder. Space 3, you have all of your let's go ahead and activate Expose. Remember how we had the mouse shortcut over there in the upper left hand corner? So you have your three you have your first web page, your second web page, the third web page, which is below the line, so that means that it's still in the dock, and you have iTunes. And then finally, we'll go to space 4, and we have iPhoto, and we have our system preferences right there. So again, it's kind of useful. It really keeps your workspace clean. And I think that it takes some getting used to, but you'll really enjoy this because it does save you a lot of time and it keeps your space very clean once you get used to it again. And now let me demonstrate something for you. Now we had pre-assigned all of our spaces by saying we wanted iCal and we wanted our address book and mail into space 1. Well, I'm going to go ahead and press the F5 key again, which activates our spaces window. And if you have, say you want to bring the text edit into space 1 with your calendar, you simply grab it, drag it over, and now it is in space 1. So, and you want to bring your Finder window up with iPhoto, so you bring iPhoto up into space 2. And so even though it's preset to open in different spaces, you can customize those once you get there. So if we press F5 again, we go back to those spaces. So we're in space 4. Now let's see, we moved it over to space 1. We moved our text editor and it's in there now. So you do have the ability for keyboard shortcuts again, so simply hit Control and your arrows and you can step through with your keyboard shortcuts. So